It's no oil painting, but it's got balls. The Minisforum HX99G is the successor to the HX90G, which no longer exists because the GPU was silently upgraded from the Radeon 6600M to the Radeon 6650M, and the Mini renamed to the HX90M. Early adopters like myself got shafted. Silently. You may be wondering, why didn't the oh-so slightly faster Radeon 6650M GPUs go into the HX99G successor instead? Even if it's a few percent, I want that few percent. That's okay about getting shafted though. I'm not mad. Let me just check the explanation email with coupon code for my next purchase. Oh, I didn't get one. But like a chump, I went ahead and bought the HX99G bare bones anyway, which features the Ryzen 9 6900HX for $839 US. Oh, the price dropped by $10. Must be that early adopter tax again. Fool me twice, shame on me, right? Interestingly, another new model has been added, the HX80G, and for $539 US bare bones, sounds like a banging good deal. I'd bang it. The HX80G will sort of be covered in this review. But to start with, what's in the box of the HX99G? The mini PC, power supply, HDMI, vertical stand, and a new addition to the bare bones, thermal pads and heat sinks for the M.2 drives. Just like I asked for in my previous review. Nice. See, complaining works. Don't be a company apologist. I've made my thoughts clear on the aesthetics of this unit. I'm not a fan. I'd be happier with a boring black box. Anyway, let's move on to the port selection, which has changed. On the front, you'll find a 5GB USB 3 port, headphone and mic jack, a USB-C, which is also 5GB. On the back, 2.5GB Ethernet, one 10GB USB 3, dual 5GB USB 3, dual USB 4, dual HDMI 2.0, and power. That's a lot of USB, and you've got the opportunity to run 4 monitors at the same time with the HDMI ports supporting dual 4K 60Hz and the USB 4 supporting dual 8K 60Hz. For those of us that have dual 8K monitors, what are you looking at me for? But that's not all. There are additional changes under the hood. Opening up is, well, have a look. 2 rubber strips need to be pulled off and what the shit is this? The glue came off. Are we having fun yet? See? Complaining doesn't work. But seriously, don't be a company apologist. Once you've struggled through those, you've got 4 screws to get through. Then pop that hood open and get this metal frame out of the way. Oh, another 4 screws needing some tough love. Okay, new stuff is dual DDR5 SODIMM slots over DDR4 found in the HX90G. Both. Also, dual PCIe Gen 4 M.2 NVMe slots over Gen 3. From my previous video, it's not difficult to disassemble further. Just watch out for the ribbon cable. Okay, we're ready to rock and roll. If you went bare bones, you also need an operating system. But if you bought a pre-build, you'll get Windows 11. I tested Ubuntu off a USB drive and all worked fine. Gotta love Linux. Okay, Windows and drivers installed, we're ready to rumble. And where better to start than the benchmarks? Remember how earlier I mentioned the HX80G? Well, I've reviewed the Minisforum UM580, which features the same 5800H CPU. So, we're doing something new on this channel, and going theoretical performance. As I'm not buying another one of these things for your amusement. It should perform pretty closely to it, since it has the same 6600M GPU. Oh, and we're also going to do that novel idea of comparing multiple products. You saw it here first. Featured are all the quote-unquote gaming mini PCs I've reviewed so far. In Cinebench R23 single core, the 6900HX is almost an 11% increase over the 5900HX found in the predecessor. That's a decent gen-on-gen increase. The theoretical HX80G isn't far behind though, just 13%. In Cinebench multicore, what? The HX99G performed worse, consistently. I benchmarked it around 10 times just to make sure. What is it they say about repeating stuff and expecting a different result? Yeah, thought so. Anyway, let's call it a tie since it's close enough. The 6900HX is 16% faster than the 5800H. Don't know about you, but that much lower HX80G price tag is starting to look very tasty. Alright, the video encoding benchmark separates the minis from the worse minis, I guess. The 6900HX soared into the lead by 16% over the 5900 and 29% over the 5800H. Not bad, not bad at all. I guess it just doesn't like Cinebench. And that's why we have multiple benchmarks, folks. In 3D Mark DX11, well, it is the same GPU, so an 0.2% difference means nothing. And I've used the lowest figure for our theoretical friend as well. In DX12, there was a 2% improvement. Not enough for me to raise an eyebrow or something else further down below, but it is something. Before we launch into the game comparisons, emulation is an area where the HX99G should perform better thanks to the newer CPU, and the result varies, but it's definitely faster in all three games tested. Both the average and 1% lows were higher than the HX90G. Not a huge difference, but it was an improvement across the board. Okay, let's see how it compares against the other gaming mini PCs in PC games. Valorant is an esports title heavy on the CPU, and the 1% lows didn't perform great. There were small frame time spikes which would sink the 1% lows. I played 3 matches to make sure, and well, that takes a while. Luckily, this is the only game where the 1% low didn't perform. Still, the average frame rate was up 15%, which would have been a nice bump if the 1% low was up as well. Is it a CPU, GPU, driver issue? Not sure. Shadow of the Tomb Raider had a smaller 6% increase in average frame rate, but the 1% lows shot up thanks to the better CPU. With Horizon Zero Dawn, the HX99G performed almost identically to the HX90G. It's totally GPU bottlenecked. Watch Dogs Legion, on the other hand, had a nice bump in frame rate, 16% on average and almost 29% for the lows. The newer CPU really helped in this title. Forza Horizon 5 is where the HX90G had its poor 1% low moment, which might have been due to the graphics driver at the time. The HX99G did really well, even outperforming the NUC i7 to take top spot. Well, in Spider-Man, the average frame rate barely moved, but the lows improved for a smoother gaming experience. This one again could be due to GPU driver improvements, or CPU, or both. God of War was slightly better on the HX99G, around a 4% increase on average. So with these games, HX99G performs better on average, less than 10%. Well, at least it's something. You can also use a USB4 port to connect an eGPU. The Mini detected my eGPU just fine, but the NVIDIA driver install would crash Windows unless I change the PCIe link state power management to off in advanced power options. So try that if you're getting any blue screens of death. Highest CPU temp was slightly down on this unit, while GPU was up a little bit. The NVMe drive only had a temperature sensor for the SSD itself, and it reached 56°C, which is below the previous HX90 Mini that didn't have a heatsink to go with it. The NVMe drive should hold up fine for long sessions. Noise levels are pretty good. As you'd expect, the results were similar to the HX90G. Idle power draw was slightly up, while max power draw recorded was down by over 10%. Nice! In the BIOS, you can set a high speed for the DDR5 memory, but I didn't notice any frame rate improvements going above 4800. The GPU was locked in MSI Afterburner and couldn't be pushed further. Maybe you can tweak it with another app. but I don't have unlimited testing time, and this review already took plenty. Overall, there's an improvement with the HX99G over its predecessor, but it's not huge. I'm also happy to see an M.2 heatsink added to the bare bones. I think the $30 price increase makes this a better choice than the HX90M. You get the faster CPU, Gen 4 NVMe drives, and dual USB4, which I think is easily worth the extra dollars, even if you don't get the 6650M GPU. However, the Mini is still ugly and a chore to open. It's going to be held back by the 6600M going forward, which is a 1080p card unless you're only playing esports titles. However, FSR and lower quality settings will keep it relevant for the years ahead. While I would choose the HX99G over the HX90M, I think the real winner is the HX80G. At $290 cheaper, it's a big discount over the HX99G. You still get an 8-core CPU. Yes, it's slower, but the 6600M GPU is going to be the bottleneck for AAA gaming in the years ahead. Of course, with the HX80G, you also don't get DDR5 memory, Gen 4 NVMe, or USB4 support. All things I can easily live without. Anyway, I provided you guys with the data to make a decision if you're interested in this product. But if it was me, I'd get the HX80G, saving almost $300. Use it for a few years, sell it and upgrade to something better in the future if needed. It's going to perform pretty close in many titles, and for the price, I think it's the real winner. But I'm keen to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to check out my NUC i7 review for an Intel NVIDIA gaming alternative. Cheers!